Hey guys, I thought I would bring you guys on another hike with me today and show you this really cool area. It's one of my favorite areas to go. It has some really unique vegetation, and it's just like very different from your typical like coastal hemlock ecosystem I'm used to. See, almost the entire canopy in this little section at least is made up of Acer macrophyllum or big leaf maples. The understory is like pretty dominated by thimbleberry, especially, but there's also quite a bit of snowberry, this guy's here, and stinging nettle as well, or Urtica gracilis. And it's such a beautiful area. There's so many unique plants you don't really see too close to the coast too often. And this is slightly inland, but not too far. Nice Rubus parviflorus flower, thimbleberry. But yeah, I'll get back to you when I find some more cool plants. Here we go. We got some Myanthemum stellata, star-flowered Solomon seal. These flowers are actually fragrant. Later they turn to berries as well, so they're just a little beneficial understory plant. A lot of these plants with these white flowers like this are usually pretty attractive to like small bees, beetles, flies. This is pretty typical of like forest plants in general. Oh, lots of Dicentra formosa here. It's actually already going to seed, you can see. There are little seed pods there. Oh, Geum macrophyllum, there we go. Large-leaved avens. Also got some Trillium, just Trillium ovatum. But if you didn't know, the flowers actually fade from white to pink as they age and they go to seed. So that's pretty normal to see. Yeah, here's some fringe copper, Tolema grandiflora. They have really unique flowers. Look at that. Very cool. I actually think they're quite cool and unique looking, although they're not very popular to sell, I must say. That tends to go for a lot of these like understory, like shade-loving plants. It's just, they're just not as popular for sales. They don't sell as well, I think probably because most people don't really have the appropriate habitat in their backyards. But you never know. Sometimes you just get someone that just like wants lots of them too. One of my favorite annuals, Clatonia siberica, grows all over understory areas. Occasionally you see them on like drier, rocky, mossy outcrops too. You know, they bloom lots throughout spring, put down their seeds. When it gets hot in the summer, they die back, and they'll germinate the coming fall or the next spring and repeat the cycle. You know, I put a couple in my garden a few years ago, and like they will like spread out and take over just by spreading by seed if you like have the space for them. And they get along really well with a lot of other plants too. They don't usually grow too tall. This guy here, Cardamine nutalii. This is why I came here today. I was hoping to find some seeds for this guy, but these guys really seem to be the type. Just once the seeds are ready, the pod just bursts. And then the seeds are just like dispersed immediately. So they're pretty tricky to collect from. And they're really small. Most of them were like in bloom like a bit over a month ago. Can you focus camera? There we go. So I'm actually surprised to find one flowering still. And here's a nice big Myanthemum rasmosa there. They also make berries, which are nice. And down here we got a nice western starflower. It's another one that's like really difficult to collect seeds for. So the timing is like very specific. They each only make like maybe a few seeds, like, and by a few I mean like literally like 3. So this one I haven't really bothered with before as much as I would like to grow it. Like I'll grow anything if I can get seeds for it. But some things are definitely pretty challenging. Oh, these guys are so cute though. Man, there's so much in bloom in this area. Like you can see them just like This one little section, how many different flowers there are. I love how like biodiverse this area is. And there's not too many invasives or introduced species. There are some, but not too many. You know, like there's this gallium down here, bed straw. But here's another one. Got some Prosartes hookeri, or hooker's fairy bells. Everyone's favorite hooker. Got lots of vanilla leaf growing down here too. There's the flowers. But you can see like how similar a lot of these flowers that grow in these forest habitats are. Like the vanilla leaf and the false Solomon seal here. Because they are attracting very similar pollinators. Of course, more Clatonia down there. There's all sorts of stuff scattered throughout here. It's really beautiful. Oh man, this is a huge hooker here. I swear I'm an adult. Occasionally. But yeah, like a lot of plants, these guys also make berries. It's amazing how many plants make berries in our forests. Oh man, you guys, I don't know what else to say. It is so beautiful. Imagine if everyone's yard and garden could look like this. And just be teeming with life and insects and all sorts of things. Maybe one day. This is pretty cool. It's this big old, geez, I would have to imagine a cedar stump. It's got a hemlock at the very top growing out of it, which is pretty typical here. But always cool to see. But you look, as we get to the bottom, it's like totally hollowed out on the bottom there. Probably make a good hibernation spot for a bear or something in there. That's pretty cool though. Now we got some Rubus ursinus, or a trailing blackberry. It's really unfortunate how many invasive species we have. They also have like native counterparts. Like we have 3 species of blackberry here. Got trailing blackberry, which is native. Then we have 2 invasive species, which are Himalayan blackberry and cutleaf blackberry. You know, as soon as you have an invasive species that shares like a similar common name, no one wants anything to do with the native one. Even though these guys just trail along the ground in general, they're not overly aggressive. They work really well as an understory plant mixed with other, you know, understory plants, as you can see all around here. But yeah, you know, it's like we have creeping buttercup, which is an invasive, but we also have western buttercup. And, you know, it's like no one wants anything to do with those native ones just because they share a common name, which is unfortunate. But interesting thing about these guys, they're dioecious. They have separate male and female plants. These guys are the male flowers here. Very similar to fringe cup. We got piggyback plant here. Foliage looks like nearly the same, except the leaves are a little bit pointier, less rounded. The flowers are fairly different though. Pretty unique. Maybe a western azure? Some kind of azure? Guys, looks like he's trying to take in some heat, bask a bit. Bro, come on. You're taunting me. I got to give up on the butterflies. Way down that way now. So hard to get a good look at butterflies, man. I always try to get close to them to get photos of so I can identify them later. Because then if you can identify a butterfly, you can look up what its host plants are. You can then try to, you know, if it's in your area, you can plant those host plants in your yard so it's benefiting, you know, the specific butterflies you already have in your area that you already can see that there's populations of. So it's always nice if you can like figure out what butterflies you actually have around you. Maybe I should mention like host plants. Every single different species of butterfly and moth have very specific host plants. They need these specific plants in order to lay their eggs on, because those are what their babies eat specifically. And they're all adapted to different specific plants. Which is another reason why native plants are so important. You know, a lot of people will say, oh, well, bees really like this random introduced plant in my yard. But it's like, okay, sure. Some generalist bee species will like that. which is still leaving out the mass majority of bee and insect species. But you know, and then you have butterflies, beetles, flies, all sorts of other things that rely on the actual foliage itself to complete their life cycle, to reproduce. So you're leaving out such a big part of the picture if you're only focusing on bees or the things that are specifically going after the flowers or the floral resources. Fuck, I should wait till I'm not out of breath before I talk, Jesus. Another one of my favorite plants. I have a lot of favorite plants, guys. This is Devil's Club. Not quite in bloom yet, but you can see the buds down there. But called Devil's Club because look at that stem. There we go. Look at that stem, all those spines along the stem, even on the top of the leaf. There's some running down the center there. Might be hard to see, but you can see them. And on the bottom of the leaf too. This plant really does not like herbivores, I guess. It's actually a very beautiful plant though. The leaves get like massive. You know, these ones are still leafing out a bit, but they'll grow like probably triple this size at least. And they have these beautiful green clusters of flowers that will bloom there, turn to berries later in the year. Great place for like wet, shady areas. Or sorry, great plant for wet, shady areas. It almost looks like a tropical plant too, because it just has like such massive leaves. Very unique, but it's a really cool plant. More people gotta get on the Devil's Club hype train. Alright, here's a really nice Devil's Club. Leaves will still get bigger than this. You know, probably at least double that size. But see, the flowers are nice and in bloom on this one. If I can ever focus this camera. They're quite cool and unique looking. You don't see green flowers too often. And we got some white fawn lilies here, just the leaves. They pretty much all flowered a month ago or so. Starting to make some seed pods there. But they have such beautiful leaves. I tried planting some last fall, but I didn't have any germination this spring, unfortunately, but I will try again this coming year. Alright, first one of these I've come across today at least. Checker or chocolate lily. Quite beautiful. I did plant a few of these last fall as well. I did get some germination, not a ton, but I think I got, I don't know, like 10 or 12 that germinated, so hopefully I can grow those to maturity. Might take a while, but they're really pretty. And I just want to get experience growing a few of them, of the different species of lilies, so I can see how long it takes to grow and stuff like that. Just for future reference and for fun, because it's always interesting to grow new species, see what their life cycles are like. Alright, I'm pretty sure I'm right, but this is red baneberry. My first time seeing the actual flowers. Pretty unique. See that? See the leaves? Apparently the berries are quite poisonous to humans at least. I'm sure other critters probably enjoy them. Definitely better left to the birds and bears and such. But pretty cool. This is another one I tried planting a few of last fall, but no germination so far. Oh, and check out this. We got some Fragaria vesca, or woodland strawberry, growing quite a few flowers here. You know, it seems like with all the native strawberries, it's so rare to actually find berries on them. They seem to get eaten pretty quickly, or they just like don't produce many in general. You can see like a lot of these annuals love these really dry areas with thin soils. They'll grow in the spring when there's still some moisture from that moss, holding some of that moisture. By the summer, they just go to seed. their life cycle's done for the year, and then they'll redo it next year. Oh man, this Calencia is beautiful. Lots of little bees and pollinators all over it too. You know, areas like this is where you really need like dry plants, or plants that can tolerate dryness. Like here's a woolly sunflower, not quite in bloom yet. You know, there's a few of these areas that I'll show you coming up. But you know, you see some pretty hardy plants there, some yarrow here. There we go, check this out. Look at all the Calencia. Beautiful. Yarrow, beautiful. Here we got some field chickweed, or Cerastium arvents. So that's a beautiful, it works really great as a ground cover too. You know, it's growing on this rocky, mossy oak cliff, super dry, like everything that grows here. It's even like a, what was that, little fly on there? Fly getting some nectar. And some really hardy plants, and they're so beautiful too, especially when planted together. Such an underrated plant, like a lot of things. It looks very similar to like a common ornamental. I think it's called like spring and summer, or snow and summer, something like that. So a lot of people confuse it for that, even though this is like our native species, and the one I mentioned is not. But they have quite similar foliage. Got another checker lily growing on the edge of this ridge here. You know, they can grow in like part shade, or they can also grow on these like really hot, dry outcrops too. They're pretty versatile. Holy fuck, guys. You should have just heard me scream just now. I am so excited to find this. You know, I compare finding new native plant species, at least ones I haven't seen in real life before. I compare it to like catching Pokemon, when you just like find a new Pokemon. Oh man, I'm so excited. This, I believe, is wingstem monkey flower. Never seen it before in real life anywhere. I didn't even know it was here. So this is super cool. And it's like, it's really small. Like, there's my hand compared to it, just FYI. Oh man, I am stoked. You know, I wasn't expecting to find like a, you know, new species. Not a new species, but one I hadn't come across before. You know, after you've been like doing this for a few years, finding new species is like rarer and rarer, or ones you're not familiar with. So when you do find one, especially when it's in bloom like this, it's great. I love it. Anyways, guys, that's me nerding out. Beautiful, amazing, love it. So it is around beginning of May-ish right now. There's a lot of bumblebee queens out and about trying to find areas to start their colonies and nest. Quite often you'll find them doing stuff like this, or kind of hovering close to the ground, stopping, maybe trying to dig a little bit in certain areas. And they're basically just trying to check out different spots and see if they can find a spot to nest and start their colonies. Because actually most bumblebees nest in the ground in abandoned mouse nests, and just like any kind of cavity. They can be pretty opportunistic, some more than others. Sometimes they'll nest in hollowed out trees, and really like any cavity they can find. But a lot of them nest in the ground, and that goes for most bees in general. Okay, here is a swamp gooseberry. They have very unique flowers. They're pretty cool. A lot of times different species of ribes like this are attracted to hummingbirds. You know, you'll see bumblebees and stuff go after them too. The hummingbirds often seem to be their primary pollinators. A lot of times you see these guys growing in the understory, but a lot of times they just, and this is a lot of plants, they'll grow in the understory, but in like shady places. And a lot of times it seems like they won't even like be able to flower or produce fruit, depending on how shady they're growing in. So it's interesting they'll still grow in these areas where they're like not really able to reproduce successfully. But I guess it still must give some kind of genetic advantage or evolutionary advantage. I guess it's good for the ecosystem overall, you know. Lots of things will still use them as host plants and use their foliage and stuff. But it is an interesting observation, at least.